Hey movie fans, so let me apologize in advance if this doesn't have like the same level of quality or editing as some other videos that I normally do. It's just that I got a lot going on, but there was no way I wasn't going to talk about this big Marvel news, so, bear with me if you will. But basically there's a report coming out from the Hollywood Reporter that the Russo Brothers of all people, the guys that directed Captain America Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, they are allegedly coming back not only to the MCU, but Kevin Feige is having them direct both Avengers 5, no longer Avengers The Kang Dynasty, we'll get into that in a little bit here, and Avengers Secret Wars. There is a lot to break down here, so again, bear with me. I'm going to just be referring to these notes that I've typed up throughout the video. But first and foremost, I'm already seeing a lot of divided opinion on this, of some people going, yay! Because, to be honest, I really like the Russos' work in the MCU. I think all 4 movies that they directed are some of the best the MCU has to offer. Winter Soldier is still arguably my favorite movie in the entire MCU. It kind of depends on the day, if I'm feeling more Endgame-ish or No Way Home, but Winter Soldier's fantastic. I've seen a lot of sentiment of, yay, they're great choices for this, but I've seen just as many, if not more, people saying, they feel like the incredibly safe pick. And honestly, I can't really argue with that train of thought. I kind of agree, but safe isn't inherently a bad thing. I've seen a lot of people be like, well, they should have tried something like try something outside the box. I'm going, that's kind of what Phase 4 has been. And y'all haven't dug everything in Phase 4. And Disney really needs some wins right now. Inside Out 2 is doing big business for Disney. It's a great rebounding win, but their box office lately has been incredibly hit or miss. So let's cut Marvel some slack that they want to go with just the layup as opposed to trying to shoot a 3-pointer with an unproven guard. The basketball references come out of nowhere here, I guess. But I understand why they would want to go back to the well that is the Russos, just because of the proven track record. Also, looking at the track record of the Russos post-Endgame, it's not like they're super busy in terms of making quality movies. Sorry if you're hoping to see The Gray Man 2, or Cherry 2, if you can even make a Cherry 2. I don't think they're a bad choice. I don't think they're the most interesting choice. I was still kind of pulling for Sean Levy, who's the guy doing Wolverine and Deadpool, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I really love. Like, he did a bunch of episodes of Stranger Things, Real Steel, Night at the Museum, Big Fat Liar, a lot of stuff that I love. But the Russos have a tendency to work with big casts, and it works out, which is essentially what both of these movies are going to be. Now, the Russo brothers also have gone on record saying multiple times leading up to Endgame and post-Endgame that they're like, oh, we really like Secret Wars. That's one of our favorite comics. If we could adapt anything, we would love to adapt Secret Wars. So I'm sure that played a factor in this. Also, the position was open, and Kevin Feige has been desperately trying to fill that void. I believe Avengers, back when it was still called the Kang Dynasty, we can get into that in just a second here. When it was called the Kang Dynasty, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings director Daniel Destin Cretton was supposed to direct it, and I believe he dropped out just so he could focus more on Shang-Chi 2, because I'm sure those would be overlapping timeline-wise, and it would just be a whole lot of work. So I do not blame him at all for dropping out of that. But at least Avengers 5, even before the Jonathan Majors stuff, has had a whole bunch of issues with directors dropping out, writers dropping out. Now, it has not been confirmed yet, but as far as we know right now, Michael Waldron, the writer of, I think, both seasons of Loki and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, he's being tapped to write Avengers 5. Now, I have seen some conflicting reports online from various sources, none of which I fully trust yet. I'll wait until actual places like Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Variety, etc. come out and say it. But allegedly, that writer, Michael Waldron, is no longer attached to Avengers 5. And in this Hollywood Reporter article, they're clearly saying that this movie is Avengers 5, no longer called the Kang Dynasty. This could be due to a bunch of different factors, but I think first and foremost is the whole Jonathan Majors situation. Now, whatever side of the camp you're on, I think it's a complicated situation, and I don't fault Marvel at all for kind of wanting to move away from him as more or less the face of Avengers movies going forward, because, yeah, it's called the Kang Dynasty, but I'm sure he had more of a presence in future projects. I also think Kevin Feige is taking some feedback of Kang. I think hasn't really worked out to the level that they were hoping. Yeah, he's a different type of character than Thanos, but I don't think he's caught on to the same degree as Thanos. Like, people still talk in high regard of Josh Brolin's performance as Thanos. I don't think people care about Kang nearly as much as they've talked about and cared about Thanos. So I think it's a smart pivot away. You just got the off-screen issues. You got people not really resonating with the character, and just a shift maybe away from the multiverse in that sense. There's no way you can't do multiverse if you're still doing Secret Wars, but I don't think multiverse has worked out for Marvel as well as they're kind of hoping. So I think they're in the middle of a hard pivot away from it, or in a different direction altogether. So I have a theory, but we'll save that for the end of what I think we're actually doing here with Avengers 5. Now, according to other sources, it's believed that the Russo Brothers not only are returning to direct Avengers 5 and Secret Wars, it's that they're also being brought into some form of like a Marvel brain trust. Like back in the day leading up to Avengers Endgame, you had a roster of people working together to come up with more or less the basic backbone of the MCU going forward. You had Kevin Feige, the Russos, James Gunn, I feel like there's a couple other names in there that were all kind of working together of like, yeah, we're taking of these other things, but we want to make sure our paths aren't crossing. We have a good general outline. I feel like we missed part of that after Endgame, and that's why things have felt so desperate of like, not desperate, but disparate of everything in separate directions, and we don't really see how they're all connected. I'm really hoping we get back to a brain trust of a bunch of different people, not necessarily a committee, but like a group of individuals going, yeah, we need a little bit more cohesion, better storytelling, just all around better quality product than just one person. I think there's too much on Kevin Feige's plate. That's been the criticism of a lot of post-Endgame stuff. There's just too much stuff, and I don't see Disney slowing that down, even though they've repeatedly said that they are. I think you just need more quality control over how much stuff you're putting out there, and I feel like we've lost that. So if we're getting back to like a brain trust thing of having a Russo's on a committee, clearly you can't have James Gunn anymore because he is the new Feige over at DC. Loving what we're seeing for Superman, the new Superman movie. I love the set photos and everything. It looks fantastic. I cannot wait. I hope we're getting more of individuals coming together to figure out what the plan is. Assuming there is a plan, because that's been the criticism post-Endgame is there's no real plan here. But one thing that I care about more than anything else here, yes, I'm looking forward to the Russos coming back. I think that's a good choice. But something that's really not being talked about enough here is I don't know if the Russos were the special sauce in the Russo-directed movies or not, or if it was their writers. All 4 movies that they directed, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, all 4 of those were written by the same team of Marcus and McFeely. As far as we know, they are not writing Avengers 5. So, was the magic sauce them working together? Was it Marcus and McFeely? Was it the Russo brothers? Or was it everything just happening to fall into place? I'm tempted to believe that the writing team of all those 4 previous movies were a very strong component. And I think a big part of the issue with Phase 4 for a lot of people has been the writing. The multiverse stuff has been overly complicated and you're losing a lot of casual fans. You gotta streamline stuff. You gotta have a good script. You gotta have a good straightforward story with a large cast of characters, especially when you get to Secret Wars. So I don't know if we're bringing back Marcus McFeely, but I wouldn't be surprised if that gets announced next week at Comic-Con, because I feel like this announcement was supposed to be made sometime next week leading up to Comic-Con, because Kevin Feige is teasing some big things at Comic-Con next week of, yeah, we really need to get Marvel back in the spotlight and get in people's good graces, so we're coming back to San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to announce a whole bunch of stuff. They're probably going to announce a bunch of projects for Phase 6, but more importantly, they'll probably finally give us a title for Avengers 5, and here's where I think the pivot's happening. I don't think, well, now we can officially more or less say that Avengers 5 is no longer the Kang Dynasty. I said in my predictions at the beginning of the year what I think Avengers will be retitled to, and now I'm more confident than ever that Avengers 5 is now going to be called Avengers vs. X-Men. I think Deadpool is setting that up, but also the Russo brothers themselves have said openly before they would come back to the MCU if they could direct X-Men. They have been big fans of the X-Men for a very long time. Plus, if you need a surefire winner or a big headline grabber coming out of Comic-Con and ride that wave of momentum that you're seemingly gonna get from Deadpool and Wolverine, announcing Avengers vs. X-Men will get a lot of people hyped immediately. Doesn't mean the movie's gonna be good, but I can't shake the feeling that that's the direction we're going with. Avengers vs. X-Men for 5 and Avengers Secret War for 6. And then, rebooting everything because it just seems like the direction we're headed in. So I think the Russos coming back are on paper a good thing, but directors are only as good as the scripts that they're given. And I'm very cautious if we don't have a good writing team with the Russos, if they're the magic sauce that's going to get Marvel out of the supposed slump that people say that they are in. To me, they're not as bad as people make it out to be, but are also not as good as they have been in the past. So maybe this is a big rebound, maybe this is a big win. Is it playing it a little safe? I don't know. Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments below. You guys think it's good that the Russos are back? You think, yeah, I kind of hope like Sam Raimi or Sean Levy were going to do the next Avengers movie? Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you see and want to see more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.